Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over your April forecast for the year of 2021. We're going to be going over your temperature anomaly forecast as well as your precipitation anomaly forecast, and then we're also going to be going over your overall forecast at the end of today's video to kind of give you a summary of what I'm expecting for the month of April. Let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your temperature anomaly forecast. You can see that for much of the central and much of the eastern United States, I am expecting above normal temperatures, except for parts of the east coast, the southeast, the south central part of the country, and also into the western United States. Those are the areas that I think might stay near average or even a little bit below average. Adding another layer to this above average, here's where I'm expecting moderately above normal temperatures for this month. And that's going to be taking place mostly over the Great Plains, into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley, as well as parts of the interior Northeast. And that's where I'm expecting it to be even warmer than normal if you're in that orange shade. And then the warmest area that I'm expecting, the much above average area, is going to be for parts of Montana, the Dakotas, and parts of Minnesota, and a little bit of Iowa as well. And that's just because it looks like, at least for the first 10 days of April, temperatures that are going to be closer to 10 to 20 degrees above normal. Then it looks like we might moderate out to maybe near normal, but that very, very warm period at the beginning of the month, I think, will tip the scale. So even if you do go a little bit below average for the rest of the month, which doesn't even look like it, you'll still be well above your normal, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees above normal when the month finishes out. So that's why I'm expecting well above normal temperatures in that dark red shade, and that covers, again, much of the north central part of the country. Here's where I'm expecting below normal temperatures, and I actually have it for two areas. So I have one area for areas from the Rockies and westward, so in the western United States, and then another area for the southeast and the Gulf Coast. And the reasoning for the area in the southeast and the Gulf Coast is because it doesn't look like many of the warm-ups really get to that area. It looks like we're going to see a cold blast to start off the month of April. So it's actually going to feel very, very cold to start off the month of April in the eastern United States. And it looks like that cold air mass might just stick around the southeast and the Gulf Coast. So it looks like while much of the areas actually north of you might be really warm compared to their normal, you guys will, relative to your normal, be maybe a little bit below normal. Not saying that you won't have a couple days that are actually above normal. So it's going to be probably on average, if you average out at the end of the month for your location, if you live in that light blue area, probably just about 1 or 2 degrees below normal. You'll have some days that are above normal, but most days, or a majority of days, will likely be below normal. And for the western United States, it looks like you're going to have warmer temperatures around the end, and especially the middle part of the month. But it should be relatively cold for the first part of the month, and then maybe the very end part of the month as well. So I think overall it might average out to maybe just a degree or two below normal at the end of the month. Here's my precipitation anomaly forecast, and you can see that for the Rockies, the western United States, and back through parts of the Great Plains, as well as for another area in the southeast, I'm expecting slightly below normal precipitation or rainfall in these areas, and that could be in the form of rainfall or snowfall. And that's mainly because in the western United States and in the northern plains, we're already dealing with potentially critical fire danger in a lot of those areas due to dry conditions and also some gusty winds, and that's just for the day that I'm recording this, which would be the first day of April. So that we're already dealing with signs of that below normal conditions, and we look out through the entire month. Most of these models have less than an inch of total rainfall for some of these areas in the central plains for the entire month, even less than 3/4 of an inch or half an inch. So it looks like it's going to be fairly below normal in these areas. And also for the southeast, it looks like even though you're still going to get quite a bit of rainfall compared to your normal, I don't think it'll really meet your expectations and what you're used to. Here's my moderately below normal area, and that includes parts of the western Dakotas, western Nebraska, a little bit of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, as well as another area for the desert Southwest. one more area also for lower parts of South Carolina, as well as southern Georgia and much of Florida. And this is where I'm expecting it to be the most below average, or actually a little bit more below average in these areas. And this is mainly because I don't think you'll be seeing any rainfall at all, or fairly little rainfall in these areas. You'll definitely get a little bit of rainfall, but definitely not too much. And it's not really going to add up to too much. And I think you're going to have many stretches of maybe a week plus where you really don't see too much rainfall, maybe just a tenth or a quarter of an inch of rainfall in total for that week. So you're really not dealing with a lot of rainfall in these areas, or snowfall depending on your elevation mainly. So there really isn't any option for me. I have to put you guys in the below normal area, and I even have a well below normal area, and that includes parts of southeastern California, southern Nevada, and southern Arizona. And that's where it looks like some of the models indicating close to 0 inches of rainfall for the entire month of April in these areas. So I have to put you guys in the well below average region because you're receiving no precipitation. These areas already don't expect a lot of precipitation. At most, they're expecting a tenth or a quarter of an inch of rainfall for the entire month. But you're not going to see most likely any rainfall or precipitation, or at least very, very little. So you guys will be stuck in that well below normal precipitation area. Here's the above normal area, and that includes the Pacific Northwest, as well as another area for the Mississippi River Valley up through the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, the Great Lakes, and then also into the Northeast. And that's where I'm looking at slightly above normal precipitation. It looks like you're going to have many storms that kind of go down from parts of the northern plains and then move up through into the Great Lakes and the Northeast. And on the southern end of that, you'll get quite a bit of rainfall, kind of like what we've been seeing in March, and maybe even a few systems that come out of the southern United States move northward. So it just looks like in general, we're going to be dealing with an active storm pattern in these areas. And if we go to the next frame here, you can see that we have moderately above normal precipitation expected in these few areas here. You have one for the Pacific Northwest, another area in southern Texas, and one more area that covers the northern Great Lakes and the Northeast as well. For the Pacific Northwest, it just looks like you'll see your typical rainfall and maybe a little bit more enhanced. Then that's you're the only area in the western United States that might actually be a little bit above normal, or at least near the normal. And then for southern Texas, it looks like you could see a fairly active onshore flow of rainfall just due to the way the winds are going to be setting up for much of the month. So it looks like you might see a little bit of rain come off the ocean in the form of thunderstorm activity, and that could be quite potent and quite consistent for many of these areas in southern Texas. And I think that could add to some of your rainfall. As well, you're going to be seeing a lot of the storms originate over those areas, so you're going to be dealing with a lot of rainfall. And then for the northern Great Lakes and also into parts of the Northeast, this is where we're just dealing with an active storm track in general. We're going to be dealing with a mixture of snow and rain that's going to be common over these areas. And it looks like maybe every couple days or every few days, you're going to be dealing with some sort of rain or snow event. Here's my overall forecast, and to start off in the western United States, I'm expecting mountain snow, of course, in the Rockies and also in the Pacific Northwest in the higher elevations, and this is just typically where you're going to be dealing with mountain snow, maybe a little bit below normal for this time of year. Just because we're dealing with drier than normal conditions for many of these areas. So expect a little bit less mountain snow than typical, but still, you're dealing with a little bit of snow here and there in the higher elevations. Chilly start for parts of the western United States from the Rockies on westward, and mainly for the beginning 10 days or so of the month of April. I think it will be cooler than normal, colder than normal in many of those areas. Might go to a little bit more of a warmer setup for the middle part of the month, and then end off the month most likely again also a little bit chillier than normal. Very dry over parts of western Arizona, southwestern Utah, southern Nevada, and southeastern California. And again, this is that area that's expecting maybe 0 inches of precipitation over the month, and maybe just a few tenths of an inch of rainfall at the maximum. So this is the area that looks to stay very, very dry, at least for this month. May, June, July, we get into the monsoon season over these areas, so you might start to get a little bit more rainfall, but at least for this time of year, it looks like it's going to stay relatively dry over those areas. average conditions over parts of the Central Plains and back through the Four Corners area. And this is just where it's going to be maybe a mixture of just cold and warm temperatures that on average, once you average it out over the entire month, is going to come out to near normal, and there won't really be anything too spectacular. It'll be a little bit warmer than normal, likely, maybe even just near normal, and then we're also going to be dealing with slightly above normal to near normal precipitation, so really nothing too noteworthy in this area for the month of April. Warm conditions up through the northern plains, at least for the first 10 to 15 days of the month. It looks like you'll be maybe closer to 10 plus degrees above normal, so if you carry that out over the rest of the month, even if it does get a little bit chillier to end off the month, you're still going to be relatively warm if you were to average that out at the end of the month. So we're dealing with, either way, a fairly warm pattern over the northern plains. And then in parts of the upper Great Lakes and parts of the interior northeast as well, we're dealing with snow potentially lingering on a little bit longer. So we get into an active time period, maybe a little bit chillier to start off the month, and we're dealing with potentially some snow that could be impacting some of these areas. And of course, I'm going to be tracking all of those events as they do happen on my channel. So make sure you are subscribed and you have your notifications turned on so you don't miss any of my videos. Cold early over parts of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. And this is mainly just indicating that, like in the western United States, for the first 10, maybe 11 or 12 days of the month, we're going to be dealing with cold conditions, but then it should transition to more milder, near normal conditions to end off and to kind of conclude the month of April. I'm expecting the heart of the severe weather to be centered over the Tennessee Valley and the mid-Mississippi River Valley, and this is generally where the cold and warm temperatures should intersect, and wherever that does happen, that's typically where you're going to be dealing with your severe weather for this month. I don't think it's going to be as active as we saw in March. March was an extremely active month for that time of year. Typically in March, we're not dealing with a huge amount of severe weather. You typically start off the severe weather season in March, but you don't get to the extremes that we saw with 2 high risks and so many tornado outbreaks over that month. So luckily, it looks like it's going to tune down a little bit, and the greatest risk area is going to go from the Gulf states a little bit further north into the Tennessee Valley and the mid-Mississippi River Valley. But again, I'm not even expecting above normal severe weather in these areas. I actually think the severe weather will be a little bit below normal, just highlighting where I think the most severe weather will take place out of any area in the country for this month. Back and forth conditions in this yellow region, and you can kind of see it's kind of in between the drier and cooler temperatures to the south, the warmer temperatures to the north. So you're going to get a little bit of both of those. So you're going to be one day maybe colder than normal, then warmer than normal. You'll have a quite active pattern, and then you'll see a couple days that just go without any rainfall or activity in terms of the weather. So it's going to be really all over the place in these areas in this yellow region, which spans from New Mexico and Texas all the way up into parts of the Appalachians in North Carolina, Virginia, and also into Tennessee. So that's generally the region where I'm thinking it's going to be all over the place, and you're really just going to have to stay tuned day to day to really get the weather information, because we really won't be able to make any long-term predictions with this area just because of how upside down it really will be because of how active the pattern is expected to be in this region. Dry and chilly conditions in parts of the southeast and the Gulf states, and this is again really, as the name states, dry and chilly for much of the month, especially again for the first, I would say, first 20 days or so of April is really when you're going to be dealing with the driest and also chilliest temperatures for April. I think the last few days of April probably will be a little bit warmer, maybe even a little bit more active than the first 15 to 20 days of the month. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.